Well, there's a long list to go through here. What's that? Thank you, thank you. Time is starting now. Yeah, thank you for putting on the clock back there. Okay, wow, a lot of accusations made. Let's start here. You didn't just hear from creationists, you heard from scientists in those particular clips that I showed you. And they're experts in their field, certainly more so than myself, and they should speak with a great deal more credibility than perhaps the non-scientists up front. Secondly, if evolution was to account for life as we know it today, just the sheer fact that it ended up the way it did is more of a case for some sort of theistic guidance than random processes and chance. So even the evolutionary argument continues to support a theistic worldview. The whole, we don't fully understand evolution, sounds like a conspiracy theory. It can account for things we don't know. Let's stick with what we do. And I've shown you some things that we do know tonight. Fourthly, I'd say if the Bible's so for destroying babies, why is it that atheistic worldviews, and listen, I'm not attacking atheists in here. There are a lot of good moral atheists. That's not what I'm saying. But understand this. Atheistic worldviews that attacks the sanctity of life is the driving component behind abortion today. And those babies certainly outnumber anything commanded in the Old Testament. Six, continue. You take atheistic ideas of ridding the world of God. And, you know, we're numbering in the upwards of 100+ million deaths throughout history. You know, just the suggestion that the majority of Christian martyrs have died at the hands of Christians is absurd. I would certainly challenge that claim to its core, because today there have been more martyrs, in this century, there have been more martyrs than of all of history combined, and it's certainly not the hands of fellow Christians. So, you asked a great question, or the question was suggested to the audience is how in the world do we get from design to the designer? Or I'd like to go with how do we get from creator to Christ? Because it sounds nicer. You know, I'm a preacher, so we like that. Well, here's where I want to go with this. I want to get us back on track here. We've seen a lot of attacks, but still no proofs offered for the atheistic worldview. So I want to get us back on track with the debate here and continue to deal with what's on the floor, and that's the question, does God exist? I think it's time to move on to a moral argument. My moral argument is very clear, and it's this. It's not mine. It's been around for hundreds of years. That all cultures around the world understand right from wrong, good from evil. In no culture is it a virtue to lie, steal, and cheat, or steal, whatever that is. So, you know, how come? Why is this? Is naturalistic explanations to account for why we all innately know right from wrong? Well, no, it's not at all. And here's the philosophical argument. All laws have a lawgiver. There is moral law, conscience, natural law, whatever you want to call it. Therefore, there is a lawgiver. This is an old philosophical argument, but it is so important because if you don't get this, then you open up the door for relativism. And relativism has destroyed more lives than anything else I can think of in history. Here's why. If truth is subjective, and it is determined by the individual rather than by an absolute standard, this cosmic dictator, as atheists call him, then what do we have? We have this. Again, I am not attacking atheists in this room. I want to clear that up just so you understand me. I have many atheist friends. I would include John to be one of those who I see as fine, moral people, and probably a lot better than many of the churchgoers at my church. But let me tell you this. A church isn't a museum for the saints, it's a hospital for the sick. And, you know, I told myself, if I ever find the perfect church, I don't need to go there because I'll mess it up. Anyways, all right, so let me just get this out here. But let me say this. This is the implications of atheistic ideas of taking away the sanctity of life, that you are the determinant of what's right and wrong. Truth is relative and subjective. You got Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and Marx. All these men have something in common. They all had great mustaches. Not kidding. They all believed that there was no God watching what they were doing. Okay. Now listen. No, he wasn't. Hail Hitler. We'll deal with this in the Q&A session. But Hail Hitler, he rose himself to be the supreme God. Now, and he was, anyways. So yeah, what we got there is we got these guys and they're accountable to no God, and in addition to that, In addition to that, they thought that they were doing morally right because they determined that truth was relative. You understand that? So, if they think that they're doing morally right because they have determined what's right, but yet we say it's wrong, who's to say what's right? Think about September 11th. Who's to say that was right? Was it the moral act by Al-Qaeda flying into our Twin Towers? We as the recipients certainly feel like that was a moral act. We thought it was the face of evil and tyranny. So who's right? Both the atheists, you'll have your chance during the Q&A session.
Everybody, please be quiet and let us have his say.
Now, the point here is this, is that truth is not relative, it's absolute. Both the atheist and the Christian shares a fundamental uniting factor, and that's we want to rid the world of mythology. We want truth. We want some sort of evidence that we can stand on and a reason for our beliefs. And I think this is why there's such a healthy dialogue tonight. So we both come at this from the same approach, and I'm telling you, at the end, truth is not relative, it is not subjective, it is absolute. Now, let's take it from the moral argument to historical evidence for the resurrection. This is how we get from Creator to Christ. How? If Christ really did rise from the dead, then it validates what he had to say, mainly that he himself was God. And that's why he got hung on the cross. Now remember, I put my Bible down today. So I'm talking to you from a historical perspective. And if you dismiss the validity of the history, I would again suggest it's probably presuppositions that are holding you back from where the evidence is leading, than rather the history itself. First and foremost, we have non-biblical historical accounts. Tacitus is one of them. There's many others I can name. There are Greco-Roman scholars, Jewish scholars, that all record that one, there was a historical Jesus Christ, that two, there was knowledge of his public trial, crucifixion, and thirdly, that there was a widespread following within the very city that these events took place that believed he in fact rose from the dead. Now, the Jewish and the Roman authorities within this city, the Romans were in charge of the city at this point. The Jews were certainly concerned because it was really causing quite a turmoil and upstir within their community. They offered no proof, much like the atheists has offered no proof tonight. They only attacked and attacked. You stole the body. They're causing turmoil. Christ claimed to be the king. Kill him. They never offered proof. Where's the body? Where's Christ? It's a conspiracy theory. Last but not least, the church. The church, as we know it today, started in the very city where these events took place, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It started within the first century, so it easily could have been squelched by any sort of eyewitness account or testimony saying, he didn't really rise from the dead, you're crazy. Why would you believe that? The religious service changed from Saturday to Sunday. That's just unfathomable. It's been raised up that this is the holy day, and all of a sudden you move to Sunday. Why would you do that? Unless, in fact, Christ rose from the dead. And thirdly, the sacraments of the church. Baptism and communion, they absolutely center around the concept of a risen Christ. And the church, from day one, has embraced these things to be the very foundational, uniting elements of all of Christendom. Now, this is not to prove anything, but to give you a quote from Scripture from the Apostle Paul himself. If Christ did not raise from the dead, then Christians of all people are to be pitied the most. The hinge of Christianity is the resurrection, and it stands historically. And it validates that Christ, who claimed to be God, was in fact that. Thank you.